Okay, so our goal is to build this kind of chat. I want to start off with the upper part to hold the messages. So basically a container we can start off just using divs. That's not a problem. And then we're gonna get all the messages from an API, the initial messages. And in any case, going back here, looks like this environment has format on save, so it changed my code as I saved it. For the API here, we're going to use that endpoint. But for now, let's just pretend there are some messages here. Lorem ipsum. So we're going to start off like this. We can add some style here if you think. Let's add a class. Now, if you want to add a class in React, you have to use class name instead of class because class is a reserved keyword in JavaScript. So let's call this app. And then it imports style here, .css, so you can use that file to define any CSS you want. Actually, they have .app here, so let's use that instead. Going back, I'm going to use uppercase A here. Going back to styles, I'm going to delete all these things. And let me put a border around it on pixel solid black. And let's add some padding, maybe 16. Or maybe that's too much. 8. Yeah, maybe that's okay. Just to make it better. For the height, if you want, we can make it take the whole viewport like that, although it's a bit weird here. We can do fixed for now. Let's try 400 pixels. So it has a certain height. Anyway, I'm gonna save that. Going back to app. Now, let me add just one more message in a div. Hello there. Now we're just mocking this up. This is eventually going to come from the server. So the first step here, if I work from the front end towards the back end, because all the data is going to come from somewhere in the back end. Imagine you're coming into this message board or whatever. The messages have already been posted, so there are some initial data there. So what we have to do is, okay, we come in the client, make a request to the server or backend, and ask for the messages, and then we can take them and render them here, one inside a div for each. Now, the way I usually approach, I'm strictly front-end developer, I would come up, okay, make a mock like this, a fake, and then I would go backwards. Okay, this is nice, but it's going to come from somewhere, and that somewhere is probably a sequence of things. So I'm going to think about arrays. In JavaScript, arrays are sequence of elements. So maybe I want to create an array here outside, let's say messages. And then we're going to take all of these and make a string element for each. And then finally, hello there. Now, I usually like to make them into a new line because it's easier to see. Now, it's nice. Now, how can we transition from having hard-coded data here from taking the message strings and converting them to a div element each? Now, we can use a map operation if you ever do JavaScript. That's a function called map on the arrays that we can transform each element of an array into something else. What we're going to do is transform every string into a div whose content is this string. Now I'm going to delete all of these, and it's going to be gone there. Now what we're going to do is, if you want to do some operation here with the messages, you have to use the curly braces here. For example, if I want to show the first one, I would say messages bracket 0, right? Because in the world of JavaScript, when you have an array, right, messages is a variable that holds an array. If I want to access the first element, I have to say the bracket notation with the index inside. And the index always gets counted from 0. So the first element is at 0. So this is the way I would do it. If I don't have the curly braces, I would literally see the messages bracket 0 there. So in order to interpolate that is substitute the value of this variable there, I must have the curly braces when I am in the context of JSX, that is in this kind of HTML lookalike inside the return here. That is the JSX. Okay, that's nice, but I want to be able to do all of them. So instead of doing just the first, I'm going to do a map. So I'm going to take that array and dot map, and the map function takes a function as an argument. You can either use the function like this or an arrow function, either way. Arrow function will be like this, and then it can implicit return something. So the argument would be the element. In this case, let's call the variable message. And then we would create a div here with the value message. Like that. Now I wrote it in a very compact way with the arrow function. You are free to use the function keyword with an explicit return that works the same way. If I don't like the compact version, I can go here and say return. Like that, and it should work the same way, okay? Let me revert my change.